First of all, the micro-credential that I chose to do for this assignment was the Apple Teacher Learning Center, and that was to become an Apple teacher. The specific program that I chose was the iPad track. I teach solely through my iPad Pro each and every day at school, so I knew that this was the right one to do for me, since it relates to my everyday teaching. And so this micro-credential is something that has been on my bucket list for quite some time. I first learned of the Apple Teacher or micro-credential when I noticed one of the instructional facilitators in my district had Apple Teacher in her email signature. It was about a year or so ago, and I asked her about it, and she told me that there was a process to become it, and it was this micro-credential, and you had to go through 6 different steps, and then I could earn it myself. And so, with all the craziness of COVID last year and me trying to finish up my master's degree program at Arkansas State, I just ended up not following through with it and never actually got it done. So I'm very thankful for this opportunity to finally check this off my bucket list. After successful completion of the program, I received my official Apple Teacher signature and read about my permissions to use the Apple Teacher in my email. So I actually ended up putting it in my email, and it's there right now. I would like to start off by stating that this was much more difficult than I expected it to be. I consider myself to be a proficient Apple user, especially because I use my iPad Pro as my primary computer inside and outside of school for all my teaching and also my leisurely activities. And so I'm grateful for this micro-credential being so difficult because I was actually able to learn a lot more about how to better utilize my iPad in my classroom, especially with all the different Apple apps. I felt like my primary way the Apple Teacher program engaged me as a learner was through the organized information. It was broken up by sections with 6 different Apple apps. I felt like the information did not go overboard, yet allowed me to fully understand and learn more in-depth details about the apps and how to best utilize them in my classroom. As mentioned in the previous question, there were 6 different topics or apps that were covered in this micro-credential. And so the first one was the iPad, second one was Pages for iPad, the third one was the Keynote for iPad, the fourth one was Numbers for iPad, the fifth one was iMovie for iPad, and the sixth one was GarageBand for iPad. And so each of these topics had a variety of subtopics with information pertaining to how to better utilize the app for teaching purposes. The iPad topic was the only one that wasn't an actual app, rather it covered the basic functions of different settings such as speech to text for classroom use. After I read through each of the subtopics for each of the apps, I had to take a quiz to test my proficiency level of my knowledge about the app. In this section, I had to answer at least 4 out of 5 questions right to earn the badge for that section. And in total, there were 30 questions among the 6 apps. And in total, I ended up answering 27 out of the 30 correct. I would say that the structure of this program did not in any way detract from my learning. I'm very grateful for this experience because it really humbled me by letting myself realize that I don't know as much as I thought I knew about the iPad. Completing this contributed to my continued drive to become as proficient as I can at using an iPad in my classroom on a daily basis. And so I believe that the structure was perfect and helped me understand some different apps I can use in my classroom. I typically tend to use other companies' versions of the apps that Apple used for this micro-credential. For example, every day for my math lessons I use the Microsoft PowerPoint app, but I learned more about Keynote in this micro-credential. And then another example is I use LumaFusion as my choice for my video editing software. And then in iMovie is what Apple uses, and so I learned about how to use iMovie better. And it was really pretty cool because there are some really cool features in iMovie that I feel like I can utilize in my classroom and also teach my students how to use it too. And so this experience helped me realize that sometimes the Apple apps have a place in the classroom and can at times be better utilized than some of the apps that I'm currently using. I felt like the navigation was exceptional. Each subheading had a new page that was pressed in order to access the material, and each of the subheadings had a perfect amount of information. There was a visual of the iPad screen to help explain the information. It had steps that needed to be taken to access different sections in the apps. It was very easy to follow, and I had a very positive effect on me learning the necessary information in order to be proficient with these apps. And so the content, as described previously, was exactly what I needed. I loved that they didn't try to overload the learner with too much information. The information for each app was specifically designed with the teacher in mind, and this information would not be as useful for a non-teacher. I feel like that helped this program stand out. The specific information is what made the micro-credential very useful. Before I began this micro-credential, I read this paragraph on the website to see exactly what I was about to get myself into, and it stated that the program was meant to build skills for iPad and Mac and learn ways to enhance creativity and productivity in your daily lessons and workflows. And so I believe that I did end up meeting the objectives of enhancing the creativity and productivity in my daily lessons and workflows. I believe that the iPad in general really enhances a teacher's workflow. This is why I choose to use an iPad on a daily basis. So the knowledge that I gained in this micro-credential enhanced my workflow to help me be a more effective teacher. And the fact that I passed each of the 6 quizzes told me that I had met the objectives of the Apple Teacher Microcredential. I believe that the Apple Teacher Microcredential matched the EEE model the most. The 3 E's in the EEE model stand for Extend Learning, Enhance Learning, and Engage Learning. This microcredential extended learning by giving me knowledge on the iPad that I can use in my everyday life outside of the school setting too. It enhanced learning by creating scaffolds in the form of visual representations of the information I was receiving. These visuals really enhanced the entire experience and offered visual learners a chance to thrive. Finally, it engaged the learning experience by motivating me to continue to learn more about how the iPad can be better utilized in my classroom.